Frequently asked questions. So these are questions I get asked all the time, and I wanted to make a video that is just here at the top of the YouTube page. If you've been here before, chances are you're seeing this. So these are questions I get asked all the time, and I want to give clear, concise, helpful answers to these questions. Question number one, how do you know so much about guitars? So I have just paid attention to guitars in the same way that people that you and I went to high school with and grew up with have cared about the Redskins or the Saints or whatever team is your team. So for me, I have just been nerdy and paid attention to guitar brands, guitar methods, guitar culture just for 20 years now. And so there are resources that have been really helpful to me along the way. So I'm going to put some books in the description down below. These are going to be basic things about guitar models, guitar construction, the history of guitar companies, features, fit, artists that have used them, all of those things, all down below. They will be really helpful, and they'll help you become a guitar hunter and just become wonderfully nerdy about guitars. Number two, did you work in a guitar shop? I did. I got to work in a guitar shop called the Guitar and Amp Center here in Harrisonburg, Virginia. It's no longer around, but it was an amazing shop that really specialized in old Fenders, old Martins, and old Gibsons. And then we were also PV and Fender and Blue Ridge dealers and some other brands. So that's where I spent most of my time. I worked full time. I paid for college while I was working in this guitar shop. And I would go to school during the day and at night and, all around to make sure that I could be around guitars as much as I can and also finish school with no debt, which I did, which is bonkers. Question number three, why don't you open a guitar shop now? So the truth is, I've had a guitar shop, and it's a stressful thing. It's really hard. I think there's a million things I could say about this. I have a whole video about why my guitar shop didn't work out, but the short and sweet of it is I've spent enough time in my life just sitting around a guitar shop waiting for people to come in. And so for me, there are better ways to connect with musicians and artists and to build culture and community around guitars that isn't a guitar shop. There absolutely is a need for great guitar shops. If you've got that hustle in you, I will help you and support you and coach you however you need. But for me, it's just not the right fit. I get more juice out of making YouTube videos about guitars, buying and selling and connecting with people, without being in a guitar shop. Question number four, what guitar should I buy? This is a question I get asked all of the time, and it totally depends. So if you're trying to figure out what kind of guitar you should buy, you should first pay attention to yourself and what happens to you when you play certain guitars. You should also pay attention to what kind of musicians you like and what kind of music you like. So starting with when you play a guitar, where do you feel it? Where does it connect with you? Do you think about that guitar after you put it down? So there's part of this that is like physically. So JP Cormier has a great line that like a great guitar should rattle your ribs. It should hit you. You should feel it. It should be a physical experience when you play a guitar. But there's also this kind of like psychological and emotional thing that should happen. You should get a guitar that invites you to play, that you just want to play, and use that guitar to create a soundtrack for your life, and it helps you write new music, and it reminds you of artists and musicians that you like, and it helps you to interpret those artists and musicians into your own style. Yes, so what guitar should you buy? It really depends, but you have to pay a lot of attention to yourself and to the musicians that you care about. If you need help, I offer coaching through my website. I can help you find the right guitar for you faster. Question number 5, where do I sell my guitars? I sell my guitars on my website, jeremytheguitarhunter.com/shop. There are also guitars that show up on my Instagram. That's the fastest line between what I'm getting and what's for sale, because usually by the time you see a YouTube video, it probably is too late. Question number 6, what do I look for when I look at guitars? I buy and sell hundreds of guitars. It is a thing I do all the time, and I kind of do it on autopilot now because I know what to look for. But for me, when I'm looking for a guitar, let's answer this through 2 lenses. Acoustic guitars and electric guitars. Acoustic guitars, the first thing I'm looking for are finish issues and cracks. Right behind that, I'm looking at the action at the 12th fret. So when I look at that guitar, I'm looking for, if it's a glossy guitar and it's got some satin parts, I need to look at those because that could be finish issues. If it's got cracks, I want to see if they've been repaired. And then the last thing, I want to make sure that it is a playable, good guitar. So it's, by and large, there aren't a ton of parts that can be swapped on an acoustic guitar, but there's tons of damage that can happen. I start looking at the end of the headstock because an acoustic guitar is so big, you can either get bangs where the headstock hits something coming this way, or the back of the body hits something when they're sitting in a chair, or those things. So I look for use. I'm okay with. Abuse is when we're going to start talking, it's going to affect the value of a guitar. But acoustic guitars, by and large, look for cracks, look for finish issues, look for neck repairs. If it's a Gibson, always look at the headstock. There's probably, this isn't true, but anecdotally it feels true, there's probably more guitars with issues, more Gibson guitars with neck issues than there aren't. On electric guitars, because electric guitars are so composed, they're so assembled, there are many parts that can be swapped and changed, and unless you know those really well, that's where the devil can lie in these deals. The first thing I look for is pickups, because if there's a thing that's probably going to be swapped, it's going to be the pickups. So the easy things, you don't have to be a master of pickups, but you just need to know what should be on there and what shouldn't. The biggest giveaway on a Fender guitar, like if a Fender guitar has a humbucker in it, like it's an HSS or it's a Tom DeLonge or something like that, most of the time, if that pickup is swapped, they're probably going to put a Gibson spaced humbucker. So look at the strings, and if they line up with the pole pieces, you're good. There are other obvious ones, like if it says Seymour Duncan on it, or if it says Fat Fingers or whatever, just know what should be there and what could be swapped. The next thing that could be swapped on an electric guitar is probably going to be the tuners. That's another big thing that people change. They put locking tuners on it. They put vintage style tuners, but you just need to know what to look for. I'm less worried about finish on electric guitars. It still is a problem, but my criteria when I'm looking at an electric guitar for the first time, assessing if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to look for the originality of the parts. I'm going to look for abuse. Question number 7, mahogany or rosewood? Now this is entirely preferential, but by and large there is this general opinion, and I think it's wrong, that mahogany is not as good as rosewood because rosewood is more expensive, and therefore more expensive must be better, which it is not. I love mahogany guitars. My 2 favorite acoustic guitars that I own, or 2 of my favorite acoustic guitars I own, my Husson Dalton TDM is mahogany back and sides. My Paget Model 1 is mahogany back and sides. I think that it's a really great tone wood. It's very transparent. There aren't any tones or there aren't any frequencies that are more loud than others. It's just a really good, friendly guitar, especially if you're a singer-songwriter. If you're singing over a guitar, it's really helpful. Now, there are other guitars. Rosewood has its place. Rosewood is loud and punchy and bold and boomy, and it's able to punch out and get out. If you're a lead guitar player, if you're not singing, that's a really good fit for you. All preferential. You can figure out what works best for you. I would also say when someone forces you into really binary thinking, like, oh, it must be mahogany or rosewood, I would say, what about cherry? What about maple? What about Avoncall? What about all these other tone woods that are out there? There are really cool, really important tone woods that aren't mahogany and aren't rosewood. They're more sustainable, they sound better, they look cooler. There are many really cool things out there. So don't take the bait that you have to like one or the other. You get to do whatever you want. Number 8, what guitar strings do I like? Again, this is totally preference, and you get to find out whatever you like. For me, for electric guitars, I think that Slinkies are absolutely just, there's so much string for the money. I really like them. They're just dead on reliable. They feel pretty nostalgic because I've had them. I've used them for 20 years probably at this point. Really like Slinkies. Now behind that, I still, when I want to do something cool and unique, I really do like Stringjoy strings. So these are the Broadways. These are their proper round core strings. They're really cool. I like the guys at Stringjoy a lot. Now I get Stringjoy is more expensive. They're like 11 or 12 bucks a set. Maybe they're a little less than that, but I get it. This isn't my daily driver, but especially the round cores, they're so cool and funky and weird. And for me, it's a fun thing to spice it up every now and then. Like, yeah. So for acoustic guitar strings, I have 2, and they're both made by DADGAD that I really enjoy a lot. This has become my more common guitar strings now. These are just the regular DADGAD EXP16s. These are just the regular Foster Bronze lights that are coated. These are good strings. They last a long time. They just sound like acoustic guitar strings. They're not super fancy, but they work really well. Now, I go back and forth. I also like the Martin Lifespans. Those are really good strings as well. But I also, if I have my choice, I would also keep these guys in mind. I really like the nickel bronze from DADGAD. These are also light gauge. Now, these, they age really gracefully. They're subtle. They don't go careening off the cliff. They also don't ever start out as super bright. And so with these, they're not a coated string, but they last a long time and they age really gracefully. And that's a goal of mine, to age gracefully. How long have you been playing guitar? I have been playing guitar since 1999, so 22 years. Holy cow. Number 10, what are your influences? So I have a video about my influences, but I started playing in punk rock bands and then worship music, and that was kind of my vibe for a long time. I got into hardcore, I got into metal bands, and then somewhere 10, 15 years ago, I took a pretty hard left turn into fingerstyle acoustic guitar, and so most of my influences now come from Neil Young. It's an eclectic mix. Neil Young, some Dylan, John Prine, but I also love Jason Isbell. I love Jose Gonzalez. I love City and Color, the Decemberists, Colin Hay. Colin Hay is interesting because he and I have arrived at a really similar style, but we don't share many of the same influences. But I love open tunings. I love DADGAD. I love using an acoustic guitar to create a full experience in a song. Tons of texture and just a huge foundation and just a lot going on. And yeah, that's kind of where my style comes from. But listen to those guys. What's his name? Fitzsimmons. Yeah, I'll put a list. I'll put some stuff done together. I might even make a playlist. If I say it on camera, I have to do it. So I'll try and make a playlist in Spotify of my kind of influences. And hopefully in that, it'll inspire you and you'll hear a little more of my style coming through. Number 11. Do you have any videos of you teaching how you play guitar or what you're playing? I don't. I don't do guitar lessons. There are many guitar channels that do it way better than I do. But I understand I do have kind of an interesting and unique style. It doesn't sound like other people, and it's like me. It's just a weird eclectic mix of liking what I like and, filtering. When I learn new music, I filter it through my style more than trying to just imitate and sound like the record, because most musicians are much better than me, and my only real chance of being interesting is just being who I am and playing to my strengths and my skills. So I don't have any videos of those. By and large, I use DADGAD, and I'm sure that question is coming up on what tunings I used most often. Question number 12. What tuning do you use? So I use standard tuning, and if I'm not in standard tuning, more than likely I'm in DADGAD. DADGAD. Take your E string down to D, like drop D. Everybody can do this. The next one is your high strings, your B and your E. You're going to drop one full step. So you're going to take down to an A. You're going to take your B string to an A, you're going to take your E string to a D, and when you do that, you will have DADGAD. One of the biggest advantages of DADGAD is that you have all of these unison strings, and so you can tune it really easily to itself. So your 6th string and your 4th string are both Ds, and so you can tune those together. Your 5th string and your 2nd string are both As, and so you can tune those together. And as long as you have the right relationship between the D and the A, that those two are in tune with each other, then you can set, 6th, 4th, 5th, 2nd. You also can set your 3rd string, or your 4th string, your D, to your high E, which is now a D. And then the only one that you really have to make sure is in tune with the rest of them is that G. It's easy. So it's an easy tuning, and it really just sounds amazing. I love it. I basically play it all the time. Question 13, how do you record your guitars? I use very specific microphones to record my guitars absolutely as honestly and accurately as I can. And the first one, the main microphone that I use is a Royer R10. So this is the Royer R10. This is a really great, pretty affordable ribbon microphone from Royer. And so this microphone is a ribbon. The big thing is don't use phantom power on this, but this works incredibly well at capturing both acoustic guitars. It's very honest, very accurate with acoustic guitars, and it also works really well paired with an SM57 for electric guitars. And so what I would do is I set this up and then an SM57 for electric guitars. I actually haven't done that yet. For electric guitars, I pretty much always just use an SM57, which is a very accurate microphone except for some of that low end, and that's where a ribbon mic really kind of comes in handy. For vocals, and I know this isn't necessarily what you asked for, but I have a microphone just out of frame here. This is a Deity S-Mic 2. This is a really great, basically full broadcast quality shotgun mic, and it works really well. It uses phantom power. For my podcast and vocal stuff, I have an Electro Voice EV RE20, and the RE20 is an amazing microphone, has a built-in pop filter, just works really well. I have a Gator Frameworks boom arm so that it's just where I need it, when I need it. It's very Rogan style, but all of that runs into a Universal Audio Apollo Twin, and with the Twin, I don't add an EQ. Actually, I had like a little compressor and a little preamp, but my overall philosophy on recording guitars is I want them to sound like you're in the actual room. I want them to sound like you were here with me, and we are friends, and I'm helping you figure out what guitar's right for you. And so with that, there are things you could do that would make it sound warm and wonderful and better than it actually is in reality, which is, you know, like I do have, so this is a mic that I've used for a long time. This is a Warm Audio 47 Junior. This is a really great sounding mic, but it is incredibly warm and it doesn't sound like the guitar. It warms it up and fills it out, and I mean, it's fine. It's fine. You can do that, but this covers up a lot of mistakes and makes you sound a lot better than you actually are, which sometimes is great. But for me, I just want to accurately represent. If I'm making my own music, I'll use this, and I just want it to sound the best it can. But anyway, that's generally my microphone setup. Question 14, what guitars do I keep? So I buy and sell lots of guitars. The guitars that are keepers for me right now is a Paget Model 1. It is an amazing guitar made by my friend Ben Paget. There's only 2 of them in the world right now, and it's just an amazing guitar. It's kind of like an OM, but it's a little bigger, but it just sounds wonderful. There's nothing quite like it. It's 13 frets. I love that guitar. I'm keeping that guitar. I also have a Husson Dalton TDM that I'm keeping for deeply nostalgic and personal reasons. It is an amazing mahogany dreadnought. It's built by just dear friends in Stanton, Virginia. Just amazing people, great builders, and I've just grown up loving their guitars, and I'm very proud that they're such a great guitar and they're from the Shenandoah Valley. The other one that I'm keeping forever is my Rude Revelator. This is made by my dear friend Evan in New Orleans. This is an amazing guitar, completely unique. It's the brainchild of Evan and myself as we built out like what would be the coolest semi-hollow that's not giant, that feels like a Fender, and has some really cool tones. Love that guitar. Other than that, I also really like my Waterloo. I think that one will be with me forever, but there are other guitars that just haven't made the cut, and that is firmly an art. And you have to really kind of feel it and figure out what guitars really speak to you and which ones you want to hang around with forever. So for me, I'm getting to where I've got a really great collection, and I'm very excited, and I use all of them a lot. Question 15. Do you have any recorded music that I can stream on the internet? I don't. So I've played in a bunch of bands, but most of the bands I played in were kind of before the internet age. Maybe not before the internet, but before streaming music for sure. I have music here and there. I have wanted to record an EP and put out more music of my own, but I just haven't found the time or the motivation or the self-confidence, because there's still a level of, I deal with insecurity like a lot of people. And so for me, hearing my own voice, especially singing, is hard, and hearing my guitar playing and hearing how inconsistent, and just insecurities seem to come out a lot. But there is not technically any music. Years ago, I put out a couple tracks. But anyway, I don't think they're around anymore. I'll have to poke around. But as of, September of 2021, there's not really any music of mine out on the internet. That should change, I know. Question 16, this is the last question. What are my hobbies outside of guitar playing? My hobbies outside of guitar playing, I love photography, and I love baking bread. I love going on hikes and being out in the mountains. One of the reasons that we moved our family back to the Shenandoah Valley rather than moving to Nashville is so that we could be in the Shenandoah Valley, in the mountains, be in Shenandoah National Park, be in George Washington National Forest. For me, there's something that comes alive when I am with my family and we're way out in the mountains, way out, just beautiful weather and big blue skies and, just beautiful mountains. Yes. Hopefully this is helpful, and hopefully this points you in the right direction. If you want time with me, go to jeremytheguitarhunter.com/contact. Find time on your schedule. It works well for you, and we will spend time together. We'll get on a video call, and we will help you find the right guitar faster. This is one of my favorite things that I'm getting to do these days is just spend more time, more meaningful time with you, the YouTube watcher, who's trying to figure out how to find the right guitar, and you're probably ready to get cooler guitars faster. So let's do that. If you want to support the channel in other ways, you can always go to the website. You can always buy merch. You can check out whatever the new thing coming out, whether that's new courses that are launching. But I do not take it lightly that you watch these videos, and I'm very thankful for your kindness and your friendship to me. Go fill the world with music and friendship. See ya!